Hi, I'm Bubba from WearWolfCreations, or Creationswear on Twitter.com, and today I'm going to show you how to put the nose tubes into your do-it-yourself mask or mask that you've already received, depending on which one you have. My friends over at SnapJawForge, Jai and Dev, have done brilliant work on showing the entire how-to process from the raw pull itself all the way up to getting the paint and everything on. And this is basically an addition to that process, just because we weren't doing the nose tubes before, but we're doing them now. So I leave all the information that you need, basically the tools that you'll be using, the methods that I use in particular, as well as alternatives, and the overall process on just how to get the nose tubes into your mask and get everything all hunky-dory. If you have any questions about it, I will leave information at the end of the video on how you can reach me or contact me. I'll also put some in the information down below, so just please take a look. And other than that, thank you very much for watching, and another shout out to SnapJawForge. You can ask them questions as well about their processes. Their information, from what I can recall, is twitter.com/SnapJawForge. So thanks, and here we go. Hey everybody, I may redub this audio, but we'll find out. Anyways, I just wanted to go over basically everything that you'll need to install your nose tube, which is this little fun guy right here. If you got a nose tube with your do-it-yourself order, or if you just happen to order one after you've already gotten a mask, this is still going to be a relevant tutorial on how to make this a part of this. Let's see, first I'll go over the tools that you'll be using. You want to get yourself a Dremel. You can get a wireless one if you want to with a rechargeable battery. I prefer the direct feed because you don't have to worry about the battery dying. The next thing you'll need is this little bit. It is I think it's meant for like sanding or taking down edges. Either way, it kind of looks like a cone. Mine is fairly well used. Yours should still be somewhere close to this color here. And you're going to be using that to put holes in the nostrils. You can alternatively use a small pair of scissors. Cuticle cutters will work, but they are kind of a pain in the butt. They look like this. They have a nice little curved tip, and you would be poking them through and cutting around that area, but I don't like that idea because it could tear something or it could ruin the mask. The next thing that you'll need, obviously, your tube. You'll need a brush. I prefer a long-handled one with a wider tip at the back, because you're actually going to be using this to hold down the tube in place where you're gluing it after you do the dremeling. I also recommend, just going back to dremeling real quick, these brush tips. You can use that to clean up the areas where you've dremeled if it's a little chunky. You don't necessarily have to use these, but I'll probably use them in the process. The next thing that you'll want to have is latex glue. You can use Copydex, which is, I think it's based in the UK. It's kind of hard to get, but it's really good glue. So if you can hold out for a couple of weeks on getting it, this is the brand I recommend. If not, what will also do the same job and is easier to get is Holden's Body Latex. And now, despite it being called body latex, it is actually very useful as a latex bonding agent. So it's a little on the cheaper side and a little less wait time than Copydex, but like I said, I still prefer the Copydex because it is much stronger bond in my opinion, and it also dries a lot faster. The next thing that you'll need is a small container of the latex. Doesn't have to be this small, could be bigger, could be even smaller, whatever. The point of it is that after you glue the nostrils in, you're going to want to use this and a little throwaway brush to basically blend it in once it's inserted. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and start putting holes in this guy's schnoz. Okay, fun part. So I have gone ahead and I've changed out my Dremel bit, and I've got the mask itself off of the dummy head. So the goal here is obviously to put a hole in the nose. Now, I usually aim, let's get a better shot of this here. I usually aim for right about in the middle as possible. That's a little dark, so I don't think you can see it, but where the light's hitting the bottom there, right about there. That's where I'm going to drill the hole on each side. You don't have to go very far with this. In fact, you can go pretty shallow and still have the desired effect. And basically, if you go too far, it's not going to cause any problems, but I just kind of want it to still be able to have some squeeze on the tube to kind of help it from going anywhere while I'm gluing it in. So let's go ahead and make a lot of noise. And I like to push it in just a little bit at a time. Latex is going to go flying everywhere. That's perfectly okay. If you go too far too fast, it'll stop just like that. So just kind of ease off on the tension. And let's check that out. Okay, I don't think you can see that. Let me grab a headlamp here. Okay, see that? That hole, better angle. That hole is just about big enough. I'm going to make it just a little bit bigger. That's about perfect, actually. So I'm going to go ahead and do that on the other side, and then we'll go ahead and move on to the next step. And just again, so you can get a better look. It's about the size of a pencil eraser. So, alright, we'll be back with the other hole in and the process of gluing it in. Okay, so I've got both of the holes drilled into the nose. We're good to go there. The next step is going to be cutting this guy into 2 pieces rather than just the one. And I'm going to use my tiny cuticle scissors for that, just because that's going to be easy for me. You can use regular scissors. It doesn't matter what kind of scissors. You could be a badass and you can use an X-Acto knife or a razor blade, but if you hurt yourself, that's your fault, not mine. I did not encourage you to do that. I'm just saying you could. Anyways, be safe always. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and cut this guy in half, and then we're going to start using our little brush here. I have a mixture of Copydex with a little bit of water. You don't have to do that. That's my preference. I like to work with a little bit of a light consistency with the glue before I apply it. It also can kind of help it dry a little faster, but like I said, that's my preference. Do it as you will. So let's go ahead, and this is actually fairly simple. Just make the ends meet here, and then you can just sort of push that about until you have it at a mostly even length on each side. And then we're just going to take our scissors and snip across that. There we go. Now, my recommendation is that you take the end that has the... I really wish it would focus easier here. There we go. You want to make sure that you get the thinnest end possible. And compared to the other end, yeah, this end is much thinner. This is going to be the one that's going to be sticking out of this part right here. All right. Sorry, I had to adjust the autofocus there. It wasn't engaging the way that I thought it was. Okay, so now that you've got your tubes in half, I recommend, just for the sake of ease, going through the front door rather than through the back. You can pinch it and push it through. I like to basically reach my fingers around the back here until I can feel it coming through the other side, and then you're going to pull it through. So we're going to pull that nose inside. I try to get it so that the end of the tube is flush with the furthest back part of the outside of the nostril, because that's basically where we're going to hide our tube. So there we go. We've got one in. And you're basically going to repeat. I'm only going to show you the video doing the one side, just because I'm sure that through the process of elimination, you can figure out that this is what you have to do to the other side. So, Just making sure everything is where it needs to be. All right. Oop, gave him an uppercut. So, and I nearly knocked the camera over. I'm winning today. So I'm just going to wet my brush with the glue a little bit here. And we're going to start just by putting the glue on the outside edges. You may have to go back in and put a little more glue over it as you go. Here's the part where our big brush comes in. So thankfully, latex is flexible as all hell. So we're basically going to insert, and you're going to press it and hold it, starting from either the bottom or the top, it doesn't matter. You're going to hold it until it dries in one spot. If you press firmer, you can get a bit of a better bond going on there. You can also stick your hand in on the inside and you can pinch it around the edges. If I can wiggle my hands in here. But you can help stabilize it and pinch it on the inside with the brush handle pushing down. And you're just going to hold this for a few minutes until it dries. And I will show you the process further along as that goes. Okay, so I've got a good glue going on here on the inside and the bottom of the nose. So now I've taken the liberty of putting on the glue on the side of the tube here, and we're going to go ahead and do the same thing, repeat the process. We're going to use the tip of the handle brush, and we're going to do a little bit of a pinching action here to glue it to the other side of the nostril. And basically, I'm sure you can suss out that we're just going to repeat this until we've gone all the way around and the tube is glued up completely in the nostril. Okay, for the next fun part. So once you've gotten a pretty good seal in on the nostril itself, you've gotten all the sides glued down. It's going to look gross, but you're going to want to take your brush and you're going to want to dab some of the latex glue on the outside and a little bit on the inside of the tube. This is more or less just like extra reinforcement. It's going to be painted over anyways. This glue kind of dries mostly clear. But since we're going to be painting it and doing a little bit of cleanup, this is just to make sure that everything dries with a nice good set. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and work on the next nostril. Again, I'll do that off camera. And you're just basically going to wait a few minutes. You can set it in front of a fan if you like, but you want to give it at least maybe 30 minutes to an hour to fully cure before you move on to the next step. Okay, so now that everything is dry, you don't have to do this step. It's just as I mentioned earlier. I want to go ahead and I want to clean up the nostril edges because I want them to be a little more seamless around here if I possibly can. The other option that you use in this point is to, or at this point rather, is to just use some of your black latex to sort of fill in that little seam edge. That'll work just fine as well. This is completely optional. This is just what I like to do. So what I'm basically going to do is I'm going to use my brush tip here because it's a little less harsh than the dome that I was using. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to lightly, probably turn on a light so you can see that better. Okay, so I'm just going to lightly touch the edge with the bristles and sort of fan it just a little bit up and outward. And I'm going to kind of do this all the way around. And you don't have to press hard, just let the bristles do the work. And you don't want that to happen, so make sure you got a good grip on it. I should have mentioned that earlier. We don't want it to sort of whip around the nose and have to do more work. And as you can see, it's kind of starting to blend in already. So I'm going to go ahead and clean the rest of that up off of the camera. And then we'll move on to painting it in and gluing it in from the back, and we should be done. Okay, so here we are. They're cleaned up now. It still may look a little bit of roughness because of the bristle action, but again, we're going over that with black latex and it's going to look nice and smooth. And again, doing all of that is completely optional. To clean up the bits that came off from the Dremel, just put on some latex gloves, get a little bit of acetone or nail polish remover if you don't have acetone. It's basically the same thing. Put it on a little towel or a safe dish rag or whatever, and you're just going to wrap it over your finger and you're just going to basically pick its nose until you get all the little bits off. You can go pretty rough on it. You shouldn't go too rough on it. You don't want to push your finger through. You just want to get it in there, press firmly, and twist it around. And that's just basically so that you can get all those little bits that fly off the Dremel. If you do push too hard, you run the risk of like pushing it straight through, ruining all the work that you just did. But if you let it cure for at least an hour or more, that shouldn't happen. Better safe than sorry. So at this point, this is our black latex. This is pretty self-explanatory, but I'm going to go ahead and do a little demo on it anyway. You can use whatever size brush you like. You could use one that goes directly inside the nostril. I'm just using an old junk brush. They're disposable. I try to get as much use of them as I can, as you can see, because this one's pretty used. But yeah, and you're just going to go in and start brushing it outward. And it's going to look weird at first, just much like the painting process is, if you remember doing that from the awesome SnapJaw video. And so we've got that side mostly done. Da-da-da. Same thing on the other side. Just start brushing, swooping it outward over all the parts that you just dremeled and over all the parts that you just glued. Gonna be kind of ugly. Okay, and basically, I'm gonna go ahead and do the rest of it off camera, but this is just to give you an idea. You're doing the same motions on each side, and you're filling in where the seam was, and you're covering up all the Dremel work if you did that. And then yeah, I'll come back to this when it's all nice and done and you can see how it looks. I'll even insert some photos of what the final product looks like. Before the final product though, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to glue the back side, and that's just for an added bit of security to make sure it's really locked in there. Okay, so I've given it a little bit of a cleanup, added some minor texturing because I like the nose to have a little bit of texture, but that's basically it. You can still see maybe a little bit of the rim, but as it dries up, it will probably be a lot more invisible. All the same, it's black, so you're not really going to notice it that much anyways, I guess, unless you are right up on it. That said, I'm going to go ahead and move on to showing you how to just seal the back end with latex. It's not really all that different from what you did with the front, except we're just painting latex on a seam that's already there. We don't have to press anything together or anything like that. It is just to make sure that the seal is consistent. Alright, I switched to a different headlamp as well because this one is much brighter than the one that I was using before the batteries were starting to die. So over here, kind of hard to see because the light is so bright, I have a little bit of latex just chilling in the lid of my container because I'm going to be using that to do the seals. So you're going to go inside and basically right up in here. I don't know how well you can see where the brush is, but you can kind of see where the tube is coming out on the nostril side on the inside. So I'm just gonna dab a little bit of latex on it, and you can use your other hand to lift it out of the way so you can get the underside. You can be pretty liberal on this part. You probably can't see because my hands are in the way, but I am not being stingy on the glue on the inside just because I really want it to hold on and I really want it to bond. Not that there's going to be a whole lot causing it to dislodge or anything like that, but you never know. You don't want it to basically keep the tubes in your nose when you take the mask off and find that it didn't glue itself properly, but you'd look pretty funny. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and do that to the other side and let it cure completely, and then that's pretty much it. If you think of a better method or a better way of doing this, by all means, do it that way. This is just the way that I recommend doing it that I found was the easiest. And that's basically what works for me. After I'm done gluing this in here, I'm also just going to go ahead and wash the inside out, get the remaining Dremel bits out, and that's it. Once this guy is dried up, I'll have the zipper in and he'll be ready to go. So thank you for watching the tutorial video. If you have any questions, you can email me at WearWolf, that's W-E-A-R, WearWolfCreations@gmail.com. You can also send me a Twitter DM at CreationsWear. And yeah, if you're on Telegram, there's a link in the bio of the Twitter profile. You can join up with the chat and send your questions there. And that's it. In the meantime, thank you for watching, and have a good day.